Yeah, it feels like for Lumiere and like you said, the other one, yeah, being Angel, you can get them once, maybe, right? Where you sort of catch them off of their game. But to do it twice, or at least twice in a best of three series, always feels kind of unlikely. So just sort of gut instinct, I would say Lumiere has a bounce back performance. Whether that's enough to lead Infinity to a win, obviously, is a different question altogether. But if you're Ravens, don't assume, right? You figured him out once. Don't assume that you're going to be able to just do so by default again. As a little bit of a shift up to the supports on the back end of the Phase 2 bans for both squads. Infinity took away that Omni Knight. Ravens did eventually go for that Coddle ban. So kind of interesting that it has survived this long, but not going to slip through. But that
But
does.
that did. Yep. And that's a very scary hero. I mean, we've already talked about till we're blue in the face how good this Enchantress is, and not to mention Enchantress versus Pugna. We've got the Dispel. The Decrep is not going to be nearly as powerful, and I think that's why they actually banned out that Omni Knight is because well, Pugna already doesn't do very high amounts of damage, but any hero that's going to be hit with that Heavenly Grace would have made it even more comically low. But this Enchantress is in that same vein. She's going to be healing up these allies around her. If she's ever going on you, you need to decrep her because we've seen what these Enchantresses are capable of if they get even a shred of farm. Not to mention, if Infinity aren't very careful, they play the Sentry game well, they play the control game. We've seen what uncontested Enchantresses have already done in this tournament, and you know Infinity do not want to let that happen to themselves. But at the same time, Pugna's not a very adept hero at dealing with the creeps. He's really going to need to double down on the lanes. And I do like this hero, though. Getting Sand King versus a creep maker is very, very good. The Hoodwink, though, they are really doubling down on their magic damage here. I mean, I want to say tripling down on their magic damage, and the burst is great, but this also does, I think, move this Chaos Knight more into that, I want to say, farming position, even if he is going to be an off lane or if we do see him as the carry. The CK is going to need a lot of farm. Sand King is going to absorb a lot, but you need to see that even spread.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting maneuver here from Infinity. Still doesn't quite give away everything between the Chaos Knight
Mm-hmm.
and the Sand King. They can move things around, but I don't know. You take a look at Ravens. Just with the Death Prophet and the Enchantress, they're just going to be so durable, especially now that we know that Death Prophet basically has to be back in Benjaz's hands and the Morphling going to come out here, which actually, you know what? No, that's pretty safe because Infinity at this point, they've taken the Hoodwink and the Pugna. Unless they want to move the Pugna to a core role, there's no space to fit in something like an Ancient Apparition here.
Yeah, no, there's really not going to be any threat of that, even though A would be kind of cool versus Death Prophet and Morphling, but it would be, I think, a little bit too much of a lunatic move. But at the same time, it feels like Ravens have what we saw in the previous series, the hero that can just farm. It's going to be a waiting game, but once he gets his items, and suddenly he's gonna be a-okay. I think this is where Infinity. I would love if they turn around the draft. It might not be the most ideal landing situation, but if they pick up a hero like the DK, they need a way to get these towers easily. And I think without anything like that, it's going to feel like a little bit of a struggle. And if you give this Morphling time, we know what he's going to do. Not to mention there's a Sand King in the game. If he sees that Sand King go in, he's going to become the Sand King, kill the Sand King, kill the rest of your team. In Infinity, as much as the CK is going to kind of be this beef in the lineup, we have another situation where both of these supports are so susceptible to just dying, to just getting ran over. The Hoodwink and the Pugna are certainly not durable, and they're going to be the ones that Ravens are going to hound. They're going to be running at that backline.
And this is we're talking about that right now. We haven't even seen Ravens get up their hero for Nyengo Flow, so they could lean even more heavily into that with a sort of active and mobile mid laner because oh, there's still plenty of options. They took that storm out, and okay, now they'll ban the Ember. That makes you maybe breathe that little bit easier, but there are still options where Nyengo Flow could just barrel his way forward, get past the CK and the Sand King, and as you said, just pretty quickly take down that support duo as Infinity. Okay, going in for the Queen of Pain with their final pick. So, well, here's the thing with the Queen of Pain, right? Get your damage, you have your mobility, but if you get caught by anything, you're basically dead, and you have multiple silences and stuns on the opposing line.
Yeah, and I think it really is just not having last pick. And in addition to if they did want to do some shenanigans where they rework their lineup and they put Lumiere on, I was thinking maybe if they wanted to really stretch for a Medusa, as crazy as it sounds, they would have to be picking the Sand King blind into a melee matchup. And I think that's something they don't want to do when they could just lose 2-0 right now if they just decide to lose two of their three lanes. So I think the Queen of Bane is certainly a safe pick. Think reactively as well. Seeing your opponent's ban out Puck and then getting two more bans on top of it to secure this hero certainly feels safe. I think the big problem right now is that if Ravens get another frontliner, I honestly think if they wanted to, they could just pick DK here. It'd just be very safe. It'd be very boring, especially for how flashy Nengo Flow was in the previous game on his Storm Spirit. But that's kind of what they need. They just need someone who's going to be able to play with that Death Prophet in the mid game, provide a little bit more lockdown. They need someone who is either going to blink stun or is going to inherently have a way to lock down these heroes. Because otherwise, Ravens is going to struggle, I think, to make a little bit of those plays. Otherwise, everything is just going to be coming from the Earth Spirit. And again, in a lot of these drafts, and I feel like we talk about this a lot with SA, a lot of times they like to overload a hero. They like to give someone a lot of different roles, and sometimes they look great. Sometimes they look indomitable, and other times it kind of flops on its face. And it's one of the gambles that I think you can certainly make in a draft, but you just really need to be confident in what you're doing. And your opponents need to almost not recognize that because we've seen people just get completely shut out when they do get that really just the reins of the draft tied.
Mid
Mid
Death
DP?
Prophet. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, we just saw it in some of the previous matches, right? Lumiere, too much responsibility to be the lone initiator, alone on the Invoker previously, was sort of in a similar position. So, like you said, the SA teams maybe fall into that pitfall a little more often than some of the others, but when it works out, as you also said, they look like geniuses. So, we'll see here as Ravens. I don't know, this is an interesting one because the Tidehunter can still be that sort of guy to take pressure initiation wise off of your Earth Spirit, but that's assuming that he kind of gets himself one or two items first.
Yeah, and of course, with Tidehunter in the discussion, everybody's getting the ags on the Tidehunter. It's very difficult, especially for Lumiere, to get in and out of the fights. And I think that's something that Infinity need to be very careful of, especially with the strength carry like the CK. If you're in, you really are kind of stuck there. At the same time, the Tide does just increase their team fight ability so much. Now they've got both the DP ult and the Ravage to throw in these team fights. At the same time, when their cooldowns are down, they are down. And that's where Infinity do just beat their opponents left, right, and center. They are the cooldownless team. They are the ones that need to find that same hole that they tried to find in turn in game one, but Infinity are always able to make a play. I think that's the big strength they need to work on here. While Ravens have doubled down on their incredible team fight spells, Infinity, they need to find their pickoffs. They need to find their openings. At the same time, they also need to keep pace versus this Morphling. They need to be careful if they end up in a farming where, I mean, we know what a late game Morph is capable of. It's why we saw it banned so heavily when Parker was on board.
Mm-hmm. It's not really a scenario that you ever want to have to be in because, well, there are paths out, right, dealing with that Morphling, but none of them are easy. So, see if Infinity can avoid that altogether. Maybe they push the tempo a little bit more to try and just sidestep late game Morphling entirely, but I don't know. Against this Raven lineup, that is going to be difficult. And as you said, it's going to come down to hitting, well, their own, not their timings, but the timings when Ravens are sort of down and out. So that feels like an adjustment that, hold on, Benjaz, going to get himself caught out here. Stun onto stun number 3, and they've got it, and they've got it into Lumiere's hands as well. Very nicely done. Just getting aggressive there early, and 5-man rotation was not scouted out.
Yeah, easy pick. You don't want to skill up a bad spell on the Tidehunter. I don't think you would even do that in any world, actually. But at the same time, I was a little bit concerned when they did decide to go for the CK carry, just because it would be a Pugna CK lane. And, some would say we've seen better combos already with the Chaos Knight in this tournament. But it's going to be a lot of harass. It's the biggest benefit, I think, of Pugna early on is you just have incredible attack range. You have a lot of damage you can put out as Mariano, I think, stole the bounty. Pretty nice away from Kara. But again, I think early on, this is also where seeing the sentries picked up, seeing who can win that battle. Kara's already leading the war, I guess you could say. But at the same time, Genix got two in tow. So whoever wins this fight, it's really going to set this early game.
Yeah, especially against the Enchantress. Control of that jungle just is kind of all or nothing. Slightly more important even than maybe the actual fighting in the lane. So see what Gennett can do. Threw down one Sentry Ward already, and now he'll make his way into the lane proper to see if there's really any opportunities for them to get aggressive. Maybe if Dodd gets caught mismanaging his stats on the attribute shift, but that's a pretty big if. Ooh, okay. Little courier snipe there. Nicely done by Kara. Takes some damage in response, but he came with plenty of regen pretty much for that exact scenario.
Yeah, and the game is already underfoot. I think Gennock's gonna get his own courier snipe, not too bad, but Carr actually timed out his trades expertly. He got the hoodwink away from his sentry just in time for the small camp to actually spawn, which is absurd. This isn't the best creep in the world to have. You've got the healing amplification, you've got the literal heal that you can kind of output there, but unfortunately, that's no Harpy summoner that you would have otherwise liked to see.
I suppose 100 plus health restored by it every, what, it's 10 seconds, so it means Kara can now maybe take these trades a little bit more confident. Never mind, it's dead, so that point's dead, but hypothetically, he would have been able to make these trades a little bit more efficiently, but like I said, you probably prefer something that has a little bit more in the way of aggressive capabilities as Kara. Speaking of aggression, just continues to throw the right clicks in here onto the hoodwink. These are not exactly titans of early game damage, but just harassing as much as they possibly can.
They're both barely level 2 as well. They're really giving all of the XP over to their laning opponents. And
It's
okay,
just not fair.
this is the least exciting fight ever. It's just two archers really shooting arrows at each other. But in the meantime, I think they're going to be otherwise happy with drawing this lane. I think Gennick's really the one who has to make his presence felt elsewhere. Meanwhile, Mariano and Dodd are just going to kind of farm away. They're going to take all this XP and then do their own thing.
They're hitting up Benjaz in this bottom lane. They get him with the Reality Rift into the pullback and the stun. Everything they had really having to be thrown out, but Benjaz, normally you're pretty tanky, but that's a level 2 Tide, only had the 1 point up in the Kraken, so eventually they're able to run him down, and unfortunately for Benjaz, Dark Demon is level 1. So he rolls in, he gets a brief stun, and that was kind of all he could do.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. It's unfortunately an aspect of balance that I think Ravens lost a little bit when they did go for this Tide pick. They've got the double melee lane. It's always going to feel like a little bit of a struggle, and
Oh,
usually
damn.
Dark Demon, they get in front of him. Yeah, it's just too much damage, and it's a big issue. Nobody's able to walk up to the wave. Nobody's able to approach when you do get that double melee setup, and unfortunately, as far up as the wave is, kind of giving kills away to the CK, you never want to see that.
Lumiere does not need any extra help pushing himself along here progression-wise, so unfortunate that they lose now. Actually, 2 deaths in the lane, but all of the deaths have been from this off-lane duo if you count Benjaz having gotten picked off in the jungle at the start of the game, so not the most auspicious of starts. Of course, if you're Benjaz, you're going to start getting a little bit more durable as this game goes on, as Lumiere is just faking out the Reality Rift over and over, but eventually you feel like these sort of aggressive maneuvers will stop being as effective onto him, but in the meantime, Lumiere is getting a lot out of it.
Yeah, in fact, I'm just watching Prada running around, almost bullying Dark Demon, messing up his stacks, messing up his pulls, somehow aggroing a melee creep along the way. Nice little steal, though. Got the bounty rune underneath the Pugnus nose, but at the same time, it's this support mirror that you always have to kind of favor. I want to say the 5 in this situation, where the Earth Spirit just isn't able to really do his job. He's not able to pull for his Tide Hunter. He's not able to go off the map and then roll on mid, because he needs to get his level somewhere, and unfortunately in doing so, Benjaz is just kind of have to sit here, just with an Earth Spirit in the trees, just how far up Prada can be with no punishment. It's a little bit sad to watch.
And yeah, like you said, that mirror, if you're the position 4 hero here, you have to make the rotation and then make the play, whereas Prada just has to move. That's it. If he moves towards mid and then does literally nothing beyond that point, you have already sort of denied that opportunity to the other side. So he just is doing what he wants here, and if Prada keeps on moving out of lane like this, then Lumiere is more than happy with the solo experience, because Benjaz is not ever going to threaten him. Doesn't have a point in the gush, can't even really think about it.
Yeah, Banjos is just planning to draw the lane, and Lumiere, as we always see with CKs, they usually don't want to get involved until they're level 12, so giving them as much XP early on in the game is always going to start to benefit them. And at the same time, I feel like we really need to see rotations from the mid laners before we see anything, and actually, okay, then go flow. Just hit level 6
in.
off the creep wave. This would be
Doesn't
huge,
have
but
the silence though, and
the roll, oh,
oh, hero
Prada.
play. Hero play from Prada. Cost him his own life, but if he doesn't step in front, that's Lumiere dead.
And top,
Okay, counterplay.
everything happens. Yep.
BTS to use his first Sonic Wave, but if you can get a kill onto the Morphling, you're okay with using gold. So, well, just as you sort of called for there, we needed to see rotations from the mid laners. We get one from each of them, and now things are maybe going to start picking up a little bit more, as Kara can't quite deny that illusion rune, but now is the time where these two mid laners are going to start maneuvering a little bit. Of course, they are still very cooldown dependent, so I don't know how decisively they're going to go after any fights, but should see at least more movement up.
Yeah, and even though it wasn't based around the cart timing, still, they get the bottom tower with the Exo, which is a very clean play, really, with the kill onto the Pugda and then the CK TPing out. You can't bring reinforcements in time, and during all that, Kara did the age-old, get, 9, 12 skeletons running at the mid tower, and PP, who had walked all the way top, really doesn't have much of a mid tower left, so when it comes to the collapse on mid, I feel like they're going to be very happy with that trade as well, so really a lot of building damage done in a very short amount of time, and Prada's trying to make the difference here, but unfortunately they have to be very scared. Any rolling boulder, any connection, any centaur stun would probably mean the death of one of these very squishy heroes, but I think now the objective should certainly be getting Mariano his blink dagger as fast as you can. That's how they cross the river with full confidence.
At this point, how close is he? Actually, not very. Not even halfway there, but he's just going to continue to farm up in the jungle. Maybe once you have that Sonic Wave up, you can get another rotation to try and help him out. You're going to have to wait a little bit for that progress to be made. In the meantime, the Morphling himself, he got caught out by that rotation from PP, but other than that, 52 last hits, highest net worth, so not a whole lot of pressure being applied. His middle lane, there's something going down here. Nengo Flow returns, trying to get some damage in. Prada not going to get taken down, while PP on the other side deploys the Sonic Wave to finish off Kara. So Infinity winning the trade for now. Dark Demon, okay. Yeah, pulls the cord, just rolls himself out of there, and that's going to be the end of the fight. But if you're Infinity, it is a little unfortunate that you have to use the Sonic Wave there, but you still take the better of that engagement, considering we had 6 heroes mid.
Yeah, and there you go. Prada survives because another 10% damage knocked off that Crypt Swarm. I mean, Hero's just kind of great, but at the same time, I think you see so many heroes almost bumbling around the mid lane just because of how good the creep kill is, and then go. Okay, they're going, but
Good
this
roll
is
from Dark Demon. That's going to keep his teammate alive. But Benjas, oh god, okay. Ravage in. He's going to connect on it too, but Yengo Flow can't fight. He's still got the DOT on him, so Benjas, he's alone. He is completely alone, and now he may pay for it. There's still a DD up on PP for a few more seconds, and he doesn't want to dive the tower. Probably the safer bet. Didn't know that Benjas didn't have any support, but not really a risk worth taking.
Yeah, but because you have to bring Benjaz mid, and unfortunately Benjaz doesn't feel confident enough to necessarily step up all the way, well, this is your guaranteed damage, the Nether Blast, the DD, everything's felt, and in doing so, you take away the tide from the bottom lane, a lane that he was happily farming up until this point, and Lumiere gets to farm the entirety of his jungle and work towards his armlet. I think an armlet coming out on the courier. I feel like Infinity are just happy with every single trades being made. While Mariano draws the top lane and finishes his Blink Dagger, Lumiere gets to take the entire bottom jungle. And they get the mid tower. It feels like everything is really coming up their way.
Just, I mean, not even really doing anything all that sort of risky. Just almost kind of playing off of maybe overplays and missteps from the Ravens side. And I mean, sometimes that's all it takes, right? You don't have to make a home run play yourself. Just capitalize on some of those errors from your opponents, and Ravens at this point, they have made an error or two. Obviously, it's still recoverable. 6-1 is not great. They're down by 1,000 net worth, but plenty of time, especially considering, I mean, this Morph has just kind of been minding his own business and farming away.
Yeah, I think this is where it's unfortunate for Benjaz specifically because tower they killed the enemy carry's tower so quickly. He had so much gold. You buy this hood thinking you're going to be standing in front of that mid tower for the 10 to 15 minute mark. Where now I think he wants his blink dagger. He wants to be the one who can actually start a lot of these engagements. Certainly, the Earth Spirit isn't really capable of doing that right now. Dark Demon's getting his level 6 in the mid lane, but it's just where now Ravens kind of need to bide their time. Where Infinity, the ones who have focused on that Blink Dagger, Mariano with the Epicenter, he's looking for any support kill he can get right now, or even Nengo Flow, and he's farming on the ward. They barely see him here, and I think they're going to go for it.
Okay. Starting off with the burrow, there's the bushwhack. They're going to hold the sonic wave, and they will not need it. So, okay. The reveal of the blink dagger goes perfectly, and that is okay. The probably second most valuable kill they could have picked up. The morph would have been a little more valuable, but put that Death Prophet on the back foot here, because at the item progression for Niengo Flow, he was trying for an early BKB. That's still a pretty sizable distance away.
Yeah, and at the same time, is Genic. Yeah, he's actually doing this, and with the break, it's a lot of healing coming in from those Nature's Attendants, but the clicks are just a little bit too much. But what are you doing here,
This
Morphling? He's
is
trying to force him out, but it feels like quite the whiff.
this is a lot of farming time being lost. Maybe if they get the kill on Genic, that works, but
No TP. He
yeah,
clicked on him, I think.
actually. They're just going to chase him to the ends of the earth now as they get the silence down and waveform forward. They still haven't quite caught up yet, so if Genic's going to die, at least he buys time, but he may not even die. Look at that. The Scurry, Dark Demon, that one's maybe a little bit overly optimistic, but you get the Hoodwink away, and now that question's even, or excuse me, that decision's even more questionable as Dot is going to get jumped in on. He already started shifting, though, so I don't know if they can kill... Oh, my God. Okay, never mind. They can definitely kill him with that. The Sonic Wave, the Sharpshooter. They've found themselves a Morphling kill, and at this point, Ravens, you gotta stop the bleeding. Even if it's not a kill that you find, you just need to stop giving up core kills to the opponents.
Yeah, and this is where Benjaz is just in the bottom lane. He's the real winner for his team. Of course, he's almost the top net worth after that Morphling death, but it really is going to be make or break with this next Ravage on the Blink Dagger. He doesn't really have an objective to play around, which is why I think this tide feels so awkward right now. And at the same time, Lumiere is surely going to be more useful in the next 10-minute timing, it's where unfortunately, this Morphling, he needs time, and he needs a decent amount of time. He's going to be waiting. He's got kind of a messy build-up here. He's going for the Lincolns, and it is a very good Lincolns game to play versus that Burrow Strike, but you can certainly still die, and they're going to take these kills in between every single day of the week. They're just accelerating their own games, getting a lot of XP. I mean, look at Mariano, Prada, and Genic. They are just kind of out-leveling their opponents right now. We're not seeing that same level of net worth or XP really at all on the Ravens side, and look at PP. There's a silence, there's a ravage. You would want to kill that Queen of Pain, but instead it's three heroes really in a stalemate versus a Queen of Pain that is assuredly all by herself because there are three heroes showing top. They're just not able to make those seamless pickoffs happen.
It's not getting the openings that they thought that they would, as the scan does reveal that there's someone there. They'll see Benjaz now, but I don't really know if that's something that you want to do. Under a tier 2 tower, Ravage available, and with Dark Demon now TP'd in, that would probably be a little bit too tough for them to handle. So instead, the smoke play is going to take them elsewhere. Prada is TPing bot. They want to get Ara, I suppose. That's not the most valuable of kills, but this is a very sort of forward Enchantress, and they actually have no way to cancel that TP. Okay. Able to get away with one there, but over in the middle lane, they're going to try and jump onto Benjaz, but there's going to be the Ravage coming through, connecting onto 3. Where's the follow-up damage? It doesn't exist. Nengo Flow is stunned up and taken down, and this is going to be a full-on retreat for Ravens, but I don't know how many they get away. Dark Demon is going to die to the DOT, and Benjaz falls back, but that is another Ravage to no effect whatsoever.
If it's Ravage, it's a less than a second duration Death Prophet ulti. I mean, this is just an ugly game. I mean, the Earth Spirit didn't have any dust to fall up on that Sand King. They hit both supports there, but without damage coming in from your Morphling, you can't really burst anyone. It's where I think this Enchantress Earth Spirit combo is really kind of fallen by the wayside here. The damage is slow. Kara hasn't really gotten as much time to farm up. He's got more points in Enchant Nature's Attendants than Impetus, so we're not seeing him become that secondary damage dealer, and certainly hard to kill, but not for Prada. And I don't know. They're just losing everywhere constantly. And Lumiere, you can't highlight it enough. He's got Echo Saber, he's got Armlet, he's going to get a Blink Dagger next. He's level 12, 15 minutes into the game. This is a perfect CK game thus far, and there's no return. We're not going to see anything from the Morphling for a much longer time. And as we always talk about, no BKB, no Scotty, those important items are not even a thought in Dad's mind right now.
Yeah, times like this, you wonder if maybe in professional Dota would benefit from a timeout system, because Ravens, they need to collect themselves here. They're not going to get the chance to. No space being given. Benjaz is just going to get hit up, drop down, finished off. Dark Demon, run. Will get himself away, but PP continues the chase. Going after him, DOT on, and Dark Demon's dead. May take a second. There it is. As PP gets the kill, and this is terrible. If you're Ravens now, what can be done to sort of fix this issue? I guess the Morphling's still farming, but if you're giving up 15 kills in 16 minutes, you may not reach the point in the game where the Morphling can even turn it around for you.
The script is completely flipped. At the same time, Infinity, they're not really the best at pushing towers. They need their Pugna to do a lot of that legwork. They still are a very pick-off-oriented lineup, but it's just where, unfortunately, Ravens can't really afford to show in any lane aside from wherever the Tidehunter goes, but even then, this is Blink Dagger, though. Lumiere bottom, this would be a massive kill. PP just abandoned him as well. So there's your first pick-off, but they need a lot more of those.
I was wondering what exactly they had planned there, but Benjaz was sort of trailing on the play, and he's able to provide that extra little bit of lockdown. So, okay. Second kill of the game for them, as you said. Blink Dagger up now for Benjaz, so you can start maybe sort of clawing your way back into this one. But as you also said, plays like that need to be consistently made for this Ravens side. And, okay, smoke being purchased up by your Enchantress, so maybe they group up and try to get aggressive, because they still have the Ravage. On the other side, though, Infinity just went for a smoke of their own. They smoked without Lumiere, though, so damage-wise, this could get a little bit iffy as Dark Demon rolling his way in onto the Sand King. Ravage deployed is going to keep PP out of the fight momentarily, but they still need dot. They went in without the Morphling. They don't have their damage. Oh, and ET, it's one step forward and two steps back. First fight, great. Second fight, no, you need the Morphling. You can't do this without it.
Yeah, it's a messy fight. It's a messy initiation. They really try their best there, but at the same time, you really wish he held the Ravage. But the Death Prophet was already forced back into the base. Of course, the Morphling's going to be farming the Ancients. It's just spread out a little bit too far on the low ground, and it was a nifty grab. It was a good silence, but also just Mariano with his Yule Scepter. I mean, he just broke up the initiation completely, and that's where, again, you have a Blink Ravage. That's your one stun, unless your Rolling Boulder is hitting and your Earth Spirit is not immediately dying along the way. I mean, that's your only other stun. I think really the best thing Ravens have for themselves right now is just that, well, the Morphling is still going to continue to farm, and Infinity can't really cleanly force the pit just yet. But I think it's a BKB flying out right now for the CK. I mean, I don't think you're killing him anytime soon unless you really catch Lumiere sleeping.
It's going to be a hard target to get onto. Speaking of BKBs, Nyengo Flow did just finish his off, so at least you've got that for the Death Prophet, a hero who was not present in that previous fight. Maybe with the magic immunity, that will change in the future, so that could have been it, right? Benjaz goes in, drops the Ravage. Maybe if you have Siphons and Silences coming out on top of it, then Infinity think twice about just immediately turning around, but at this point, it just kind of feels like Ravens are hoping that things work instead of being confident that they actually will. As Dark Demon, that's, okay, that's a decision. Gets in there, gets taken down. They'll trade him out for Prada, but look at the TPs. Infinity are coming. They want the fight. Lumiere's in first. They're going to try and get on to Dodd, and they do manage to pull him back. Can they actually kill him off, though? Yes, they can. They burn through even the attribute shifting. Yeah, that's the sound. Or, excuse me, that's the sort of cue for everyone else on Ravens to retreat as they do back themselves out. So, I don't know. They had the Morphling that time. That's great, but at the end of the day, you get one kill onto a Pugna and you lose the Morphling as well as the Earth Spirit at the very start of that fight, and now Infinity moving towards the pit. Yeah. May not be very quick, but I think they can get this, especially if the Morphling's still down for another 15.
Yeah, this is going to be very free. And even bottom, I felt like the Morphling did a really good job of waiting for the Pugna to come in. The Earth Spirit was trying to make space by just being on top of the Hoodwink. This smoke is going to peter out real quick as soon as they realize that there isn't going to be a fight. Oh, I hope they walk away from here. This does not seem good.
They want that kill on Genek, and I guess they get it, but now can they afford to stick around any longer? The Aegis was picked up by Lumiere, and yeah, they don't want to chase any further. Just the one kill. They knew they weren't going to get to the pit in time, so at least you get something out of it, but now you got to be careful, because this CK is going to be coming at you with 2 lives.
Yeah, and really, it's one of those things where the first Aegis, it really doesn't change the game plan at all. Raven are still going to be looking for the Sand King and the Queen of Pain first and foremost. Of course, support's always first, but they're always going to be looking at the cores and trying to ignore the carry. But it's just where Lumiere's itemization is just brutal. He's going to be able to ignore your entire lineup, basically. He's going to be running and looking for those deep kind of picks, and he's going to get them. I think best case scenario for Ravens is that the CK tries to go into Nengo Flow. He BKBs off the Chaos Bolt. He has to ignore the supports. Worst case scenario is he finds Dark Demon first. The ES gets taken out. You don't have any of that damage that you crucially need from both his Vessel and his Magnetize. I honestly think Benjaz could probably just be ignored at this point. They just need to find that pecking order. I think with this smoke, we'll have to find PP. No BKB yet. He went for the Kai Assange. It's, again, the greedy buildup where they're ahead. They feel like they can make it work. Same with Mariano. You know, he's getting a BKB in his shift queue. I think he's got an Ogre Axe coming out right now. But they need to find these cores first. They need to find a core plus Pugna, because Pugna's just going to heal. He's going to heal. He's going to heal through your damage, and then you're not going to get that kill. So they need to find those 2 heroes, then they can find a pick off. Without that, though, things are going to get messy real quick. And I think, unfortunately, if they do tread into that triangle, they're going to find a Lumiere that they simply cannot kill, and it's going to be another wasted smoke. And they actually double smoked to get another hero back in.
Well, not very efficient, but if they
No.
somehow do this, I just don't know how they pull this off. Okay, the BKB wasn't used. There's a Ravage, but even if they kill him, this is the first life on your Chaos Knight. They will bring him down, but the second he's back up, BKB is at the ready. Teammates are coming in. They're doing their best to sort of run interference here, hoping maybe they can keep Lumiere isolated, but there's the BKB. There's the Phantasm. Starts dishing out the damage. The Siphon, though, does have the buff up from the Shard, so for Infinity, you do have to be a little bit careful of that, but now they go in onto the Morphling, keeping him locked down, pulling him back in with the Reality Rift. They find the kill. They're on to Benjaz now as well. Quite enough damage to kill him initially, but they will continue that chase, and they actually just canceled the DP's TP. And that's going to be a relatively simple kill. PP comes in with the Sonic Wave to actually get both of those other cores, and, well, yep, there it is. GG. That was their last shot.
I mean, what was their last smoke as well, I think. I think that's why they really tried to make it perfect, but they got their ideal fight. They, unfortunately, had to break on Lumiere as opposed to find the Sand King farming the triangle, but I guess who can you expect to be farming the triangle 22 minutes into a game? But even Chaos Bolts, or BKBs the Chaos Bolt on the DP, but they just simply can't fight post their BKBs. They simply can't keep any hero around them long enough with the Ravage already expended, and I mean, kind of a huge reverse sweep here. I think Infinity just kind of bopped their opponents. Again, Tide pick, I feel like they really throw themselves off balance when they ended up in this lane situation where only Benjaz is happy what's going on in the game state, and Dark Demon just did not find enough. It's sad to say, but the Earth Spirit just really didn't do anything this game.
Wasn't really that sort of moment of brilliance kind of pick that we look back on and say, yeah, that was it was smart to go sort of off meta with that choice. Not the case here, and Infinity with the adjustment, right? The problem in that first game was your opponents were very much cooldown dependent, but so were you, and they weren't able to sort of get in between those timings, so they draft a lineup that doesn't have to worry about it, that doesn't have those same massive cooldowns that they were reliant on, and you see the results. They were just right up in Ravens' faces from the very beginning, and they never let up.
Yeah, and give Ravens 3 more kills early on in this game, add another 10 minutes to the game duration, we're probably looking at a very different game of Dota. But unfortunately, the ultis just were not very spent very well. It's very cooldown reliant. They don't get the fights in between. Infinity they didn't really die this game. You know, the cores especially just never got that opportunity where you just find someone alone, except for that one the oddball situation where Lumiere was caught bottom. But
Right.
I think going into game three, Ravens need to really make sure they don't get the better of themselves. I really think their game two draft was much worse than game one.
Kind of tripping yourself up before you even really start the race there with the weaker draft compared to their opponents, but we know that they're capable of putting together better. Game one obviously proved that, so some adjustments to be made on that Ravens side as we are going to be pushing into a third and final game here. So the question is, can Ravens recapture that game one form, put this loss out of their minds, or does the newfound confidence and momentum from Infinity just sort of give them that wave that they can ride to the 2-1 win? We are going to be finding out in about 10 minutes here, so we'll be stepping away for a moment. Game three between Infinity and Ravens coming